Pleased to be here, not so pleased to be here.
Yeah, I understand. because because you seem to be the expert we will grab when we have these collapses. And we were talking about it earlier on that, come on, architects, you know, how about the developmental aspect about it? How about the construction aspect of it? But so you know how it is.
How about future planning?
Yes, all of that. Maybe all of that will also factor into what we're going to talk about this morning. How do these things keep on happening? It's been linked to things like poor design. It's been linked to things like inferior materials and those kind of things. We'll come and talk about those things. But first, let's play this report of what went earlier as a sort of lead into our conversation.
Primary and secondary school just collapsed this morning here in Jos, the Plateau State capital. As you can see, residents from different parts of the state are out to see if they can rescue some of the students that are trapped inside this building. The reason behind this development is yet to be ascertained at the moment.
Residents of Busabuji community in Jos North local government area of Plateau State are still in a shock and sober mood following the collapse of this building. Members of the community were going about their morning activities when the sound of the building collapsing took them unaware. Security operatives from the Nigerian Police, Army and Civil Defense alongside officials of the National Emergency Management Agency are here searching for survivors. Few hours ago, some trapped victims were rescued with various degrees of injury and taken to the hospital for medical attention. These are the accounts of some eyewitnesses.
I had my child is here, so I was coming in. I saw smoke, the kind of milky smoke. So I was wondering if the school has started using gas. So I started running in. When I was at the block industry and I discovered that it was a collapse issue, I started crying because my child is here. I started crying, pleading God, asking him for mercy.
Actually, I was in the house when my second son called me that my daughter's school has collapsed. So I started running. From U-Town, I ran down to this place because I was confused. Coming here to see what happened here, it was devastating. I cannot control myself. Fortunately, my daughter is in SS2A and her class is off from the upstairs.
The population of this school is too much and it's the best school so far. But the way of destruction of the building, that is what collapsed this building. I thank God my daughter came out alive. She said immediately she came out here to ease herself. Coming out from the toilet, she saw the building starting shaking like say earthquake was affecting the school. And the student trapped there now are the classmates of my daughter being trapped inside here. I think they're more than 30. Here you are seeing here now is JS1, JS2, SS1 and some classes, more than 3 to 4 classes here.
Residents are now being encouraged to donate blood to survivors in critical condition who are fighting for their lives. Funom Joshua, TVC News, Jos.
Okay, welcome back. And as I was saying, there's even a newspaper article on it, a newspaper editorial on it. Nigeria experienced 135 building collapses and at least 26 deaths between 2022 and 2024. So that is not that is not a statistic to be sneezed at. So we ask again, what are the causes of the situation not being remedied, in spite of the fact that it's not the first? I mean, in the 2 years between 22 and 24, 26 deaths resulting from 135 collapses all over the country. It isn't an emergency yet, seems to be the question.
Well, of course, as I said earlier, before we went on air, it's so unfortunate that it's only when we have collapses that media houses all over the whole place start calling us. I've been at radio stations, we've had to release newspaper articles and all the rest. And here we are now at the TV station, so many other TV stations. It's a systemic thing.
There's something wrong with the system.
Yes. You can't address, for example, now, let's assume we start taking remedies today. We start having statistical remedies. Okay, let's do this, and then we start thinking that it will reduce tomorrow morning. It's not going to.
Okay.
A problem that has been known for 100 years, 50 years, you cannot put a recipe today and expect a final solution tomorrow. A house that was built 30 years ago, for example, maybe it has been gradually collapsing over the years without us noticing.
Yeah.
Then the rains come, the ground is a bit not so stable, sinking holes come, and a lot of other things. Boom.
Oh, we do have sinking holes.
Not exactly.
Okay,
here.
Because
for sinking holes,
I was surprised by the terminology.
Yes, sinking holes, sliding. These are phenomena that can happen anywhere in the world.
Okay.
And you cannot predict it.
But so far, Nigeria has been blessed. That's sinking holes where the ground will just open up and swallow you.
Yes.
To the glory of God. We just like hurricanes and that kind of thing, we don't have
Yes,
that.
I need us to be scientific about this. Hurricanes, earthquakes, you don't see them happening here. But earthquakes, earth tremors have happened here before. Yeah? Tremors, they have happened here before.
Not everybody
So, if you look at the way things are, if you are a good administrator, or you are a good functional head of state or president or whatever, you are in charge of the planning industry. What you should do is to be futuristic, is to be to plan ahead, to preempt these issues. Supposing this happens, what do we do? The last time I was here, I remember talking about all this. But it has not solved the problem. Why? Because governments are selective in what they implement. Government of Lagos State, for example, has been very, very proactive. They've really tried because 50%, more than 50% of the collapses in the country are here in Lagos State. So you can expect that. Population explosion is here. Overloaded houses here. And a lot of other things that can cause collapse. People break laws more here in Lagos State. So the government has to be a bit more stringent. But is the government doing enough?
But when you look at this fact that schools, you would have thought that schools will be operating, the construction of schools will be operating under the most stringent of conditions, especially because of the implication.
Who built the schools? Is it a private individual? Is it the government? And when the government built it, if whoever built it, were they properly supervised? Was the building properly procured? And again, after procurement, was it properly supervised during construction? What kind of materials were used?
Okay, these rhetorical questions that you are asking, it just brings to mind the question in abroad. Let's go to in England, for example. You hear of buildings that are hundreds of years old. Is it that they had a better sense of building construction and technology, or that they were more stringent than us? I recall when a very popular developer, his investment collapsed in central Lagos here. That same developer had been said to have had great success in the UK, great success in South Africa, and then the one that we know he's doing here, this happens. So what is it about the system, the society, the approving authority, and the builders, the professionalism itself? And indeed, societies like yours, sir, like you're former president of the Building Collapse Prevention Guild. What is the role that you can play? Because you would have studied all of this. None of this is news to you.
It is not news.
So, but it still is happening.
Yeah. It's all of that and more. Okay? When you get to a place like the UK, you see, I was at the St. Paul's Cathedral.
Okay.
The St. Paul's Cathedral is like 600 years old, 500 years old, thereabout. And it's as solid as tomorrow morning.
Exactly. There are manor houses, etc., and all of those.
A lot of them. So many issues. There's a British building standard that is stringently adhered to.
Okay.
They call it British standard, BSBS. It is something that is religious. They adhere to it religiously. You cannot put this grade of concrete in this kind of construction. You cannot use this type of reinforcement, in this type of construction. You cannot bring this kind of quality of sand to site. And the setback or whatever on this particular site, the soil tests that have to be done, a lot of things. There is nothing that must miss out in those checklists.
So you have professionals with integrity over there, because if they have standards...
Professionals here have integrity.
But if nobody could compromise their integrity over the past 600 years of that tradition, which you call the BS.
Yes, British standard.
The British standards. We also have, I'm sure, no less professional standards. But the men and women who are to operate those standards...
You have, maybe out of all the buildings that are collapsing, if you can count 5% that are the fault of professionals, even the one in Lagos, the one about Fosco.
Okay.
Fosco, that's the nickname of the guy.
Yes.
It's somebody I know. I knew him very well. And when he did once he did in the UK.
Yes.
He contracted them out because he's not a professional. It has to be given to professionals, architects, structural engineers, and so on and so forth, who procured that building or those buildings properly. Same thing in South Africa. But here, he beat the system, or the system can be beaten here.
Okay, so it can only be beaten because the people there are compromised.
We are not the operators.
But there is somebody, whether it is government, whether it is private, whether it's professional.
Yes.
These are the people that are supposed to say, absolutely no way you can do that. And they don't.
That is why we, as advocates, are constantly going all over the whole place, preaching like this.
Okay.
Say all this thing that we are saying, because we are not in government, we don't have power. We are an advocacy group.
And those rules don't have power, apparently.
Fine, but we can affect how things are done, which is what we have done to bring about LABCA. LABCA in Lagos State is as a result of advocacy.
What is LABCA?
Lagos Building Control Agency.
Oh, okay.
Lagos State Building Control Agency. Okay. So, when you are doing your construction, after you have done your approval, all the consultants that you used, they are satisfied the government. Then you are doing construction. Every stage has to be supervised stringently. But as they are doing that, these are for new buildings. These are for buildings that have been procured now. Not buildings procured 30, 40, 50 years ago. So you will have collapses in those areas if they were not properly procured. And by the way, we kept telling the Lagos State government, and I'm not shy of saying this, we say it all the time, there are hundreds of thousands of professionals in the 7 built environment industries who are trained to build. These are the people who are trained to put up houses and structures. You can always use them to augment the shortfall in the staff, that you have, because they can never. There are over 20,000 houses coming up in Lagos almost every month. So how can you supervise all of them? But these professionals live, work in all those places all over Nigeria. So you can easily exploit them and ask them to do to whistle blow.
Okay.
To check, because they have trained eyes. For example, now if I come here now and I see cracks on your walls, I won't come in. If I see a beam that is deflecting.
Because that shouldn't be.
Yes. So we have those people with the trained eyes. And we are asking the Lagos State government, which we have already implemented in Ogun State. We're asking the Lagos State government to partner with us. Partner with all these professionals who are everywhere and like ombudsmen.
Yeah, the problem with Lagos State government, if dare I say so, and I imagine a lot of people who are of Lagos State affiliation, association will perk up and say, yes, well, what do you want to say about the problem of Lagos State government? Is that they themselves will seal a building in the morning. Work must stop. And people will go there in the night and break those shackles and work continues. Why
is somebody overloading his vehicle and traveling on the road where there are policemen? Why? Because I witnessed this yesterday.
I thought it was almost, you don't need to go to court. You're in jail already for breaking the shackles of Lagos State government or the seal of the Lagos State government on a site. But life continues.
I was going to Wole Soyinka's 90th birthday yesterday at Ishara. On the road, I stood behind, some vehicles at the checkpoint. And this vehicle in front of me was overloaded. And the policeman, you know, very aggressive with guns and everything. They came to challenge the guy. The guy just did like this. And what you know what was happening? The vehicle because they saw me, and they saw the way that I was looking at them.
Yes.
They quickly passed me.
It's not a laughing matter. But the thing is, we do have the regulations. We do have the laws. Indeed, we do have the professionals in Lagos State government, because I know that, like most other places.
And in Plateau State too.
And in Plateau State and in Abuja and all those
Kaduna.
other places. But there's something about the people who are charged with be the gate man here. If you say nothing passes, nothing passes.
Let me say something that is a bit of an eye-opener. Lagos Island has a lot of deficient houses.
Okay.
Almost every building there has been tampered with, you know, built up.
Yes, okay.
You know, a lot of laws have been compromised there.
Yeah.
And buildings are falling there. But do you think it's possible for the Lagos State government now to go into Lagos Island
and say it wants to start correcting
and start bringing buildings down? There will be a riot.
There will be an uproar. All the chiefs in Lagos, all the you know what? There will be phone calls galore all over the place saying no. You can't do that. You know, that is a long-standing. Quite frankly, the conversation could really end here, but we're not allowed to, because we must continue to explore. Because I have a sense that we know what the problem is. You just said it yourself. There are a lot of mistakes. Even those that are still upstanding are still mistaken. But tell me what you think is going to happen if Lagos State Governor Sanwo-Olu said, you know what? Zero tolerance for anything untoward, any infringement of the law, no matter how small. Zero tolerance for it. As you said, the best, it's left to one's imagination.
It takes a bold man. Somebody who can hold the woods by the horns and act. And it has to happen.
And resist the pressures that are going to come.
Yes, it has to happen. If it doesn't happen, then you'll be calling us every time. I don't want to be called there for this particular thing.
There are many other aspects to the profession.
Yeah, to the profession that you can call us for, that can help construction, that can help developmental aspects of the society, that can help inner city planning, urban regional planning, and a lot of other things that will make our city look beautiful.
Because it seems that the last time you were here, all the things you said are still indeed where you said them, in place. I don't know. Are you, sir, are a professional? I think you spent your career in Lagos State.
Lagos, all over Nigeria,
all over
sometimes
Nigeria,
outside.
All over Nigeria. So you know what you're talking about. But the last time you were here, you highlighted all of these issues to the best of your knowledge. Has anything changed since then? And if we hadn't had this continued spate of collapses, we wouldn't be here talking about it. And the people who heard that program might imagine that work was being done in the background and things are not as the same as when professionals, you weren't the only one who was out. When professionals were out speaking about this matter, the matter has moved forward a number of notches. Do you feel that that has been the case? Yeah,
there are little improvements here and there, because
in regulations,
supervision, engagements, the government and all of us, but it is not enough. And then the government itself, especially in Lagos State, is not engaging the professionals enough. I make bold to say that. Look at a city like Berlin in Germany, the present capital of Germany, was leveled during the Second World War. It was flattened because two heavyweights are coming from both sides. The Allies on the left and the Russians, the Soviets on the right. But go and look at Berlin today.
Yeah.
Berlin is fully built to correct regulations and standards. So even if we level the whole of Lagos State today, and we do systematic improvements, systematic constructions, smart constructions all over the whole place, we can only cry for a while. And I'm not talking of only that place. If you are going on your way to Lagos now around the Oshoki and you look right and left, you will see buildings that are tilting, buildings that are deflecting, and a lot of things, because they are building on quicksand, they are building on shifty sand.
Which they could possibly be doing with Lagos State government approval, for instance, where these occur in Lagos, because it is said that no building is going to go up without government approval.
That is the law. 500 laws is 0% implementation. So it will happen. People will break laws. But what are you doing to preempt their breaking of those laws? And when they break the laws, what sanction is, are you inflicting on them? A lot of things. Even the people that are manufacturing materials. 12 mm, you will, when you now put micromillimeter gauge on it, you see 11 and 11.5 mm instead of 12. Meanwhile, the person that has done the calculation based on 12 mm steel reinforcement
and has worked
of these constraints.
Has worked out the formulas from those base figures and even from the manufacturing source. And that's because what we're supposed to have, we have standards organizations. You would have felt that they will say, no, this is not coming into Nigeria. This is 0.00.
Even the ones being manufactured in Nigeria, the ones being manufactured in Ikeja here.
So you see, it's what was the word our reporters used that time? It's heartbreaking, especially where it concerns schools and children, where we are having incidents of 22 kids trapped and killed, possibly. It's a problem. And the big fear is that if you come back 5 years, another conversation is going on. Perhaps things very similar to what we are talking about now will still be brought up.
There was a time when I was president of BCPG, I engaged commissioners of physical planning all over the country. One-on-one, because some of them are my colleagues, like the one in Akwa Ibom, who was my classmate. The one in Kaduna, the young lady in Kaduna, an architect, we are in the NIA together. And they're experiencing this kind of Nigerian factor problem. So ultimately, it's an ongoing conversation. But you see, our conversation cannot be so slow. We cannot be as slow as we are and expect miraculous transformation. It will not happen. There has to be something drastic.
The scary thing from what you've just said is that, touch wood, God preventing, there are more collapses, in the immediate future.
They are already preparing.
You see, this is why it's a big problem. Okay, maybe we can get some callers to call in, or perhaps I better wait till after the break because so that they won't be interrupted. But maybe some professional builders will call in. Maybe some private developers will call in and add to what the body of knowledge that you are sharing here. Because houses ordinarily are not left empty, inhabited by people, and it is these people that are at risk. And what is more important than human life is why you would expect that some supervisory authority, that would be uppermost on their mind. We're not going to allow you to put up a structure that, even if it's looking good now, in 10, 15 years, it could come down. Who knows who's going to be there then? And that kind of, I just don't know, because everybody's involved. Even the engineers in the states that, are advanced, so to say, sometimes you hear of compromises. What should be what the specifications should be. You hear that people with authority, professional authority, are signing off on things that are less or lesser. You just talked about a critical point just now. You said that even the manufacturers of things like iron rods are coming in under spec. So you think you're quoted 12 mm rods, but actually you bring a measure to it and it is not 12. It is 11 point something. But people, maybe because of the nature, how we are, we're not exactly Germany, where they say they're very crazy about measurements and technology and specifications. People say, well, it's okay. 12, 11.8, it's okay. We'll manage it.
If it is not it, it is not it.
Yeah, it reminds me of an old saying, if it's not Panadol, it's not Panadol. I'll tell you what, let's take a break now. We'll be right back. We'll continue with this conversation and take calls from home. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back.
doubt and fear doesn't occur at the canvas, it shows in the canvas. It shows the conation of raw earthen material slabbed, stroked and molded at a pace provided by the doubt and fear. Every move weigh in the struggle of one to the other, merging the past to the present, brushstrokes of colors seen but not known. For when the wailing stops, the pieces settle down in abject beauty erected for a century of a century. Speaking, advocating, protesting as the arts are meant to be.
Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
1 year ago, a new government stepped into the spotlight and took the reins of our nation. The promises were grand, the challenges immense. Daria Media, with the support of the MacArthur Foundation and in partnership with TVC News, presents The First Year, a comprehensive review of our government's progress, achievements and the areas that need attention. We will hear directly from the government and the work it has done in the areas of the economy, security and governance in the last 1 year, with the renewed hope agenda of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Witness the transparent assessments of the promises made. Watch and listen directly to government representatives as they engage with ordinary Nigerians. Join us live in partnership with TVC News, NTA, Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos, FRCN and all our social media handles. Date is 17th and 18th of July at 11 a.m.
Welcome back, and we're looking at the, rampant building collapse incidents in the country. It's a serious enough matter. Yesterday, a report in the Punch, 2 paragraphs only from that report. If I were to read it verbatim, it summarizes all that my guest, Architect Akinola George, has been saying. The article goes, quote, as of 2024, there have been 17 recorded building collapse cases, with Lagos having 5, Anambra having 3, and Kano, Niger, and Plateau having 1 each. Continued quotes, investigations by the Guild, that is your guild, the Collapse Prevention Guild, investigations by the Guild revealed that professional ineptitude, including excessive loading, use of substandard materials, faulty design, poor workmanship, and weak foundations contributed significantly to the collapses. So this is what you've been explaining. Good morning, Mr. George. Thank you for calling in. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you. Uncle Yori, the issue of building collapse, in my view, is not attributable to age of the building per se. It's about corruption. Corruption in the regulatory agencies, corruption among the professionals, contractors, architects, quantity surveyors, and all that are involved in the building. The regulatory agencies, well, let's start from there. They are the ones who give approved plan, who approve plans. And they are not only supposed to approve plans, they are to follow up construction in the process and discover whatever is wrong and correct it before the building comes to form or is completed. Do they do that? They don't. When they collect money from people, they allow them to use whatever materials they have. Then come to the professionals, the architects, contractors, architects, quantity surveyors and all that, who play advisory roles to clients and to contractors. I've seen this thing in practice because I was involved in it when I was in government. They connive and blow figures up. They are not much concerned about the standard. And whatever the contractor is going to use, once we get the money they have teamed up to collect, they don't care about that again. So what will happen is, at the end of the day, the quality that of materials that are used and the process of building will not be followed to the letter in the building. So the building gets collapsed. I'm so sorry about what happened in Jos. One woman was saying that about 30 children were trapped inside. Let us be sympathetic. I mean, this is human life. You want to build a school, and you don't care about what happens to those that will be in that school. You just want to collect your money and go. And every Sunday they will go to church. Some will go to mosque on Friday, looking for. I mean, I don't tire of Buhari.
It is exasperating. Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George. It goes back. He even just said one word, corruption, to describe all these things. Because, you know, I made the point at the very beginning that there are standards, there are professionals, but these specifications need to be upheld by. It's not a computer that's going to uphold it. You must see it. Even if you're going to use the equipment to determine what the condition of the site is, it is people that are going to, you know, that are going to, you know, have to be there to take measurements and take assessments. But if these are, to use the word, corrupt, what can be done unless it is seen as something of an emergency, which would be revolutionary if Governor Sanwo-Olu or any other governor were to get up and say, you know what, as I said, zero tolerance. Any slightest infringement will be visited with the full weight of the law. It would be a revolutionary stance. And you ask the right question, imagine what would happen. And a lot of viewers out there can imagine what will happen. Reverend Dominic, good morning to you, sir.
Say something before Dominic comes in.
So as not to burn his credit, sir. Okay. We'll go back to
Good
this
morning.
point. Good morning, Reverend.
Okay. Chief Buhari, we can do something about this issue.
How?
Let me give you an example of Lagos Island.
Okay.
Most houses in Lagos Island are residential houses, but our brothers have turned into become commercial houses. Now, let's say a house is meant to carry 10-kilometer load. Now you have turned it to a warehouse from first floor to the last floor. I went there last year to buy a cloth. You already got me witness. I was carrying a staircase of a particular, shopping mall. The house was shaking. The staircase was shaking. And I asked one of them, I said, why? He said, I saw with Siamo for years, and I saw it there. Now, what are we going to do? The governor can go to Lagos Island and see all these things with his technical department, like the professional in the house. And they will mark those houses and put it as a proviso to the tenant, somebody told the company there that this house is no more good to stand. You don't need to go and break it, because if you break it, that's opera. The government can put a sign on it. This is no more good to use. That is one side, so that everybody coming there will know this house is defected. So you leave it. When something happens, nobody will blame the government. But if we keep quiet, it will keep crumbling, especially Lagos Island. Let me say this. I don't know whether the professional there know what I want to say. When I built my house here, I dug a borehole. It's a small estate here. So this engineer who came to clean my water. He said, sir, all of you in this estate has borehole. It's a danger. Your borehole alone can serve the whole estate. Well, not too many. But just a borehole in every house can even cause trouble to the ground. And when there's a little shaking, it can bring down houses. And he was wondering that this thing may happen in Lagos or anywhere, where every house has a borehole, and it's not good. I don't know how the professional there will react to it. This borehole everywhere, compromise also the soil. That's what the professional said. They were doing it in Lagos. Every house has a borehole. This thing must stop. Government must step in and set a standard that we will live here. Because if it don't happen today, it will happen tomorrow.
Indeed.
God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Reverend Dominic. And that, what Reverend Dominic was saying, goes back to the whole manner of housing in Nigeria. In other countries, it's not like that, where everybody is struggling to build a house, and because you must have a local government for, a possession, you must have everything, you do everything by yourself, because government is not going to bring anything to you. So that's what he's talking about there. It still is the biggest problem. It is the biggest problem that we can imagine. We can just be getting examples, like Mr. George called in and was citing examples, especially of corruption. Reverend Dominic has now called in. There's much that is wrong. And my mind keeps going back to, now we are lamenting the loss of lives, in particular of children. If those figures, if there had been a crystal ball and we had seen that 22 children are going to die here if the needful is not done, of course, the right thing will be done. But because there is no way you can know or see into the future, we let them go. We trust our engineers and whoever are the other gatekeepers in the building industry, who we have been hearing reports of that there might be compromises. And then this happens. And it will continue to happen.
So, do I come in now?
Please, sir.
I want to, first of all, refer to the first speaker, Mr. George.
Okay.
Who was talking about corruption.
Corruption.
And then he was mentioning architects compromising, some professionals compromising, and so on. It's a bit presumptuous.
You didn't like that?
Yeah, not because I'm an architect or a professional.
Mm-hmm.
It's because you can't just wrap everybody up in one bag and put them there. Why would I be here if that is the case? So it's a bit presumptuous. These things happen. I mentioned it earlier about the policemen and all the rest.
That is, it's a society-wide thing.
It's a societal dilemma. But beyond all that, what are we going to do? When we said that the governor may just come up with a fiat that, bring down this, I'll bring down, that will cause more problems. So why don't we do this? What we can do is what BCPG has been suggesting for the past 6-7 years. BCPG, Building Collapse Prevention Guild, has suggested a system of codification that is more like the crystal ball you are talking about.
Yes.
It's scientific.
And people are not paying attention.
Well, I don't know. We presented it to various governments. We presented it to Ogun State government. We presented it all over to Lagos State. What does codification say? It says that the land you are building on has an address. It has survey documents. The professionals that are doing the designs, they are registered. They have professional addresses, professional numbers. The building itself and all those other factors that come into making that building can be codified so that you now know when that building is sick because it's on the computer. So after some time, because of what you have, artificial intelligence is all over the whole place now. So you can easily determine, this building has this error indications.
Yes.
So please investigate that and either bring it down or repair it or adjust or whatever. So before collapses happen, you already have, it's just like a patient in the hospital with a doctor, because you have a history, a case note with your doctor. And these doctors are linked all over the whole place. Especially that's what I experienced in England.
So you can have a diagnosis of what is likely to
happen. So you can easily predict when this man will die.
Let me bring in Ada in Jos, who has held on for a while. I'll come straight back. Good morning, Ada.
Good morning, your guest there, that is architect George.
Yes.
Ada calling from Jos Plateau State. It's unfortunate that we had a Black Friday, 12th July, Really sad. We lost those young children, just because of negligence. That particular incident would have been averted. That's what you're talking about. And the problem with just like the ones you enumerated, the use of standard building materials, the deployment of unsafe but cost-cutting techniques in housing construction, lack of professional supervision at various levels of the construction process, lack of enforcement of laws. Enforcement of laws help to regulate people's behavior, their behavior or conduct. When the last time I checked on the plateau, the past 7 years, we have had over 5 building collapse. And each time they will say they are going to bring them to book. Up to now, we didn't hear anything about them. Nobody is punished. But I'm optimistic that the governor we have now, Caleb Mufan, he will do it with his executive order 003. If he implements it to the letter, I think people will sit up. There's so much corruption in Nigeria. So government should enforce building code, which includes building procurement standards. Construction, I must tell you, Yori, is deep science. Indeed. It's a matter of life and death. Indeed. Let me leave it there.
Indeed.
Let's not give up Nigeria.
Thank you. Thank you very much for calling in. Take Lagos State government. Lagos State, it's very serious about these matters. It's just that take the recent, although that is a different kettle of fish, when buildings were erected wrongly, where they should not have been erected and all of that, and Lagos State went around and was knocking down these houses. Of course, there was an outcry that included charges of unfairness. Where were you when all of the approvals were being granted? I have all the documentations that you can require, but it looked like a part of the Lagos State behemoth woke up and said that these things are going to cause floods. They're going to cause problems, drainage problems, and it's not in the interest of society. So now that part of the behemoth woke up and said, sorry, the very thing we're talking about now, a zero tolerance to a mass calamity in the future, painful as it is, we're taking these things down. Well, in that instance, they did it. But where there's even the approval to now measure and do what you've just said, be able as a true professional to be able to diagnose a fault and
codification.
Yes. That seems to be where the fact that a building is looking fine, the color is great, the roof is great, it looks like...
Doesn't mean it's well.
It doesn't mean it's well, but for some reason, the people that you would expect not to be impressed by such things also seem to be, quote-unquote, fooled like the rest of us.
Well, this report that I just told, this codification thing I just told you about, the report is on the table of the Lagos State government. We submitted it to 2 or 3 commissioners. You know, codification of houses, buildings, and the professionals. When you codify this, you now know who built, who designed what, where it is built, the codes of the survey plan, the various... So you can easily, on the computer, identify that building. You know where it was built. You know the materials used. So ultimately, you are able to predict the wellness of this building. And if that building is sick, you project in future that, look, let's do this and that to so and so building. That way, we prevent collapses happening. And the Lagos State government especially has not called us on that. I'm saying it on air now.
The reports that have been submitted.
We submitted it like 2 or 3 times. It was even backed up by the Nigerians of architects. Because we built that idea together. You know?
But still, there's silence.
Yes. Well, I don't know. If we're able to effect that, then we can be said to be scientific. If we are not scientific, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, please. If we are not scientific about this thing, we don't have a crystal ball. We pray from now till tomorrow. Japanese people are not prayer warriors, but they are achieving great things. The same thing with the Chinese.
Same thing with the
Chinese. Well, here we are. We pray 24 hours.
Everybody's. You mentioned
it's not an. It's a science. Prayer is not an exact science. Prayer is faith.
I'm not comparing us with China, but I think most people out there would have seen on social media things that look like miraculous engineering feats, where train lines, bridges are spanning endless distances, and it's coming back to the knowledge, the science. In fact, Chinese people are leading in the world in terms of infrastructure now because of the feats that they're pulling off. It can only be because the most exacting standards are going to be adhered to. I don't know. They don't have the problem of finances that we have, so that
or corruption.
Or corruption. They have a different attitude to corruption.
They just execute you.
Exactly.
By the time we execute 10, then the whole place. We pass it up. NNPC is not functioning now.
Yes.
They are saying they are pampering things.
Yes.
If you sack the whole board, refineries have been under construction since 2003.
Yes.
2003. So that's 20 years ago.
There's this tolerance for,
now you get it.
Let's take a softly approach. Let's be looking. I mean, it needs to be said. And then people want to build. There is no plan for government housing. So government would have been able to insist, because it will be the person doing the building, insist and do the right thing. But people left to do their own thing. They begin to manage specifications. They don't even use the professional builders, because that brings on a fee. Things are already, I can't afford Dangote cement or whatever other cement that they are using. And so people begin to make a little go as far as it possibly can.
Adjustments, Yalabata cement, and everything.
All of this is going on, especially nowadays. And these things, these buildings are not buildings that are 60, 70 years old. Lagos State is dealing with those. A lot of these buildings are relatively modern, constructed building, and there's a corollary. These buildings were built in hard times that we have now, when those who are building now will tell you what a bag of cement is costing, as opposed to those who built 20 years ago, 25 years ago. In fact, some people are just coming out of their foundation, and the money they've spent would have put up an entire building 25 years ago, perhaps. So these are some of the problems we have. We keep on talking about it until someone announces an emergency and says that we're going back to what we know to be the right way to go.
Science.
It is.
Science, properly defined, is any principle that you test here, you take it to another place, you test it again, you get the same result.
It's
That's
the same
science.
thing.
But when you continue to think, okay, it's not my portion, it's not this, it's not anybody's portion. If you do the right thing, you apply scientific principles, you get the right results.
Look at those overhead Lagos State rail projects. Look at all those bridges. Would they dare compromise anything there?
They won't.
In fact, I'm not even sure that those things are entirely in the hands of our people. I imagine that the people who are operating it are very close joint partners, because they will be involved. God forbid, it will never happen. If any of those overhead rail lines were to collapse, we call Alabama. So we just have to leave it here. I think we should be engaging you also in terms of development and construction, advances in those regards, and perhaps use it as a sort of a beacon call to these are the things that need to be done. And where they are being done, perhaps we can highlight those.
Yes.
We can highlight
I mentioned artificial intelligence just now.
Yes.
And a lot of areas where professionals can make the difference. In the use of materials. There are new materials you don't have to use this kind of paint. There are new materials in town now. Nanotechnology is here. A lot of ways of putting buildings up. Like you can do it in 1 month, while you are doing it in 2 years.
Well, but it is going to cost money. And
no.
Not necessarily.
No.
Not necessarily.
It costs more to build a bad house than to build a good house.
Indeed, I understand you. Because that which you said you have built, if it comes down,
yes,
you start again, it's costing you more.
Even at the same time, the construction you are doing, you are not measuring scientifically what you are using. So ultimately, you buy 100 bags of cement instead of buying 35, which is the scientifically designed quantity. The same thing with steel and all the rest.
Well, Mr. George, Architect George, we're going to have to leave it there. I want to thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
As always, for coming on and explaining these things. Our pleasure. So that's our program today. Do please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folari. Bye-bye for now.
Following is a paid presentation by ShopX TV. You're watching ShopX TV, home to some of the most popular international brands in Africa, including Gotham Hammered Collection, Genie Bra, Bionic Floodlight, Spot X, Total Crunch Evolution, and more. And we are now proud to introduce our biggest offer of the year, the ShopX Mid-Year Sales. Yes, from now until the end of July 2024, we will be offering our customers 20,000 Naira off this amazing kitchen collection. Tired of pans that scratch and stick? Or cookware that takes up valuable space in your kitchen? Introducing ShopX Gotham Hammered Copper Collection, the perfect cookware to upgrade your cooking.
Progress, achievements, and areas that need attention. We will hear directly from the government and the work it has done in the areas of the economy, security, and governance in the last 1 year, with the renewed hope agenda of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Witness the transparent assessment of the promises made. Watch and listen directly to government representatives as they engage with ordinary Nigerians. Join us live in partnership with TVC News, NTA, Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos, FRCN, and all our social media handles. Date is 17th and 18th of July at 11 a.m.
Sometimes it's the story that calls. At other times, the people just want to be heard.
School, I need students, but I need teachers.
Can't continue like this.
Their voices re-echoing through time itself.
We haven't done anything.
If the tide is high, everybody run for safety.
Their tears leave a sweet sour taste for all their demands. A familiar call beckoning for change. In our world, no one expects a disaster to happen. But when it does, we'll be there to x-ray all sides, from the east to the west, north and south. Community Forum will examine the oddities and challenges to economic development, as well as issues yearning for government intervention. Watch fresh episodes of Community Forum on Sundays by 9:30 p.m. only on TVC News.